A TGIF, everybody, and welcome into the First Call podcast. He's Scott Shapiro, and I'm Jeremy Plonk, representing First Bet at Express Bet. Scott, we got a Kentucky Derby winner, a Dubai World Cup winner, a couple Breeders' Cup winners, and a brand new wager, the Sunset Pick 6 at Santa Anita. A lot to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, a lot going on. Breeders' Cup preps, like you mentioned, not the biggest of big horses, but a lot of that tier below in the top divisions. We got some real good turf horses running. We got a lot of everything going on. And like you mentioned, a very good week to load up that Express Bet or that First Bet account because there's new wagers, there's old wagers. Santa Anita's open. Lots of fun.
Something old, something new, something borrowed, something green, hopefully, this weekend for players out there. That Sunset Pick 6, want to tell you about that new wager. Final 3 races on the card at Gulfstream each day, with the final 3 races at Santa Anita. So a Pick 6 between sister tracks in Florida and California. $1 minimum, low takeout. The call is eliminated from that pool. It is retail only, as they say in the marketing world. So chance for players to get involved with that starting today. It's opening day at Santa Anita. And really, it's kind of a little bit of a 3-day prep weekend, if you will. Today on Friday at Belmont at the Big A, they've got the Beldame Stakes. Huge day on Saturday. Another big day on Sunday at Santa Anita and tracks around the country. Delaware Park has the Del Cap, the Delaware Handicap on Sunday. Remington Park's got the Oklahoma Derby card on Sunday as well. So a lot cooking around the country. For those of you on our traditional podcast channels, the audio channels out there, here are the races Scott and I will handicap over the next half hour or so. We'll start things off at Santa Anita with 5 of the stakes races on the program: the City of Hope Mile, the John Henry Turf Championship, the Eddie D for the Turf Sprinters, the Goodwood in either the Classic or the Dirt Mile division, and the John C. Harris, the former Unzip Me Stakes. So we've got those 5 races, several of them with Breeders' Cup winning you're in implications. The Churchill Downs we go, where they run a couple stakes races, the Ack and the Lucas Classic. We'll focus on the Lucas. We'll take a look at that race in depth, which could also have Breeders' Cup Classic or Dirt Mile implications. And then finally, Belmont at the Big A on Saturday, the Turfers in the spotlight in the Joe Hurst Turf Classic. No bigger turfer in Breeders' Cup land than Rebels Romance, 2-time winner of the Breeders' Cup Turf, going stateside in that one. And then the Woodward Stakes, another one of these races that could be Dirt Mile, could be Classic. If you're betting this weekend with First Bet and Express Bet, we sure hope you do. A couple big promotions to talk about. Here on Friday, Scott, we've got $5,000 in the late pick 4 and late pick 5 hit and split, $2,500 on each pool, playing at Santa Anita today on opening day. Frank Caruli's got your picks for that pick 4 up on the website at Express Bet and First Bet. And also coming up on Saturday, the $10,000 exactathon. I know you've dug into that one a little bit. Hit 5 exactas on the card at Santa Anita and share take your share of your pari-mutuel winnings, plus a chance to win up to $10,000 with other players with First Bet and Express Bet. So a lot of great reasons to play.
No doubt about it. I think there's a tiered promotion on Sunday of some sort, so keep an eye out on that. But yeah, the Exactathon, one of our more popular promotions, $10K up for grabs, $7,500 just split amongst those that get 5 right. So get to your capping on that, and hopefully we can help you out talking about 5 of the races coming up.
And also this weekend, the return today of the Coast to Coast Pick 5. So you get those races as well from Gulfstream and Santa Anita. Plenty to bet on. Whom to bet on? That's the question we're going to pose to you in each of our 8 races that we handicap. For those of you watching on X and watching on YouTube, be sure to like and share this out. Comment in the comment section. Help us grow the audience for not only our podcast here with the First Call podcast, but also when we look at Scott's podcast, Horse Sense with Bailey Armour. And then also on Tuesday, we've got another podcast with you here on the family of shows, that being the It's Official podcast. So be sure to like and follow all of those different podcasts. Let's get handicapping Santa Anita on Saturday. City of Hope Mile, named for the hospital. It does such great work with cancer patients out there. City of Hope Mile, grade 2 company, $200,000. Last year, it was won by Johannes. He went as one of the top Americans in the Breeders' Cup Mile. We haven't seen him back since one race at Saratoga, but we haven't seen him back in Southern California since last year's Breeders' Cup. What do we make of Johannes here? I guess he did make a start in the San Gabriel in December, but he hasn't been back in Southern California in almost a year. Johannes or somebody else in the City of Hope?
Well, real quick shout out to City of Hope, who 2 people that folks out there might know well from the racing business, very big fans of City of Hope. Jay Privman, Gino Baccola, both got a lot of help from them. So shout out to the City of Hope, one of the best out there. But Johannes, man, I mean, he's the one to beat. I love this horse last year, Jeremy, but that effort, off the layoff has me concerned at a short price. Obviously, it's a gambling game. Gun to head, I'm going to bet Johannes, but I don't know. I mean, didn't seem to be the same horse out there as at Saratoga as he was last year, which brings questions. Obviously, 7 for 7 over this course. Final Boss to me is a horse that didn't want the 1 3/8 last time in the Del Mar handicap. He was in really good form coming into that. I think he's going to get the jump. I think it'll be him. Cabo Spiritu is outside. Hopefully he doesn't get pressed too much. If he doesn't, I think he has a chance to spring the upset.
Final Boss, Cabo Spirit on the lead, maybe from way back, Almendares, a horse who was second in this race last year and is in pretty good form right now, coming off a second in the Del Mar Mile. Let's go back to the 2024 City of Hope, and we'll see if we get a replay or something different.
And Johannes looms between horses. He's had a great trip, and he's poised to pounce at the top of the stretch. Johannes up to take the lead. De Jour has surfaced with his rally, and Trickery is in fourth. A 16th to go, and Johannes puts away Conclude and opens up another dazzling display for Johannes to win the City of Hope Mile, presented by my racehorse Blanket. Photo for second, including an oncoming Almendares.
Almendares getting second there. That's my slight upset pick if we're going to beat Johannes in here. Like you, I don't know what to make of that race at Saratoga. He had a lot of trouble on the first turn, but then didn't do anything. He kind of checked out early in that race and never got back involved. To the 6th we go on Saturday at the Great Race Place. Santa Anita Race 6 is the John Henry Turf Championship. 1.25 miles there. John Henry, for someone my age in their 50s, this is kind of one of your first big horses in racing. The 1981 and 1984 Horse of the Year. He's got the statue in the paddock at Santa Anita. Scotty was a major stakes winner in 7 different seasons from 1978 to 1984. We don't get that very much anymore. Kona Gold, you think back, and that's been a while since a Kona Gold even at this point, aging ourselves. So the John Henry Turf Championship, good race in here, headed towards the Breeders' Cup Turf, but these horses typically aren't threats in the Breeders' Cup Turf. The Europeans seem to have a stranglehold on the division. What do you make of this year's field for the John Henry, and who wins it?
Well, it's interesting. I'm a big fan of this race. Last year, I think it's the last long shot I picked, but it was Cabo Spirit for me in wire-to-wire fashion.
He's not in here, is what you're saying.
Maybe, but, it's one of those races where I give a pick. It's Gold Phoenix, but I don't love him as a wager. But this horse, tip of the cap to him for winning. You speak of John Henry. This is a 7-year-old gelding. He's not John Henry. He's not close. But he's won the Del Mar handicap in 4 straight years. So a lot of, a little bit of his grit and determination, if you will. And he showed it last year and the year before, winning by a neck. That was John Henry's deal. He knew where that wire was without question. Gold Phoenix is the top pick in here. I don't trust him at the price. I would look to Balladeer if I'm looking to take a big swing. But Gold Phoenix is better than these horses on his best day. And, I don't know who's set for their best day in here to beat him.
He knew where the wire was last time. He was a neck better than Stay Hot. And Stay Hot's the horse I'm going to give a chance in here because of the change of venue. You talk about the 4-time winner of the Del Mar handicap in Gold Phoenix. That's absolutely his track. At Santa Anita, he's 3 for 15. That's not quite as imposing as what we see at Del Mar. And you look at Stay Hot, 6 starts at Santa Anita, 3 wins, 2 seconds. I'm going to take a shot at Stay Hot. They were a neck apart last time. Let's go back to this one at Del Mar with Larry Combs.
The turn they go. And now moving up alongside of Final Boss's City Exile. The two of them are right together. Endlessly is next. And Gold Phoenix is let loose on the far outside. Stay Hot, who saves ground, splits rivals. Truly Quality trying to come on from the back of the pack. Then Athlete Lon toward the inside. And on the far outside, Mondego. They're coming into the final 16th. Stay Hot, Gold Phoenix. These two with Athlete Lon on the inside. And on the outside, Truly Quality. Gold Phoenix! Gold Phoenix did it for the 4th time in the Del Mar handicap. Don't call him.
What a performance. He got there on time. 7 years old. You got to root for a horse like that, at least, especially when you're talking about a race named the John Henry Turf Championship. Let's go to the Eddie Delahousse, the Eddie D Stakes, race number 8 for the downhill turf sprinters at Santa Anita, named for the 1993 Hall of Fame jockey, won 2 Kentucky Derbies back-to-back, Gato del Sol, and then the next year was Sonny's Halo in his heyday, more than 6,000 wins for Eddie D, who retired back in 2003. If you're not old enough to remember Eddie D in the saddle, all I got to say is you just wait, you wait some more, and then Eddie D comes and gets you. One of the great closing jockeys of all time. If you had a horse who rallied from off the pace, think Garrett Gomez meets Joel Rosario times 10. I mean, he really knew where the wire was.
He was my first favorite jockey, and I don't know if I have one since. I remember I got to speak on Rich Glazier, Delaware Park, may rest in pieces show when I was 17 years old. The one thing I remember talking about is Eddie Delahousse. That's how much I love him. Exactly why you mention it is because it was just that timing and the off the pace. It was so fun to watch. Pleasant Tap. My favorite horse of all time that he rode in period is AP Indy, who was a different style. He was a front running style, but Eddie D was just absolutely incredible, and good to have, the namesake race for him down the hill here. And I think that's the key thing to point out for handicappers that might not be as familiar, JP, with Santa Anita. I know most of you are out there, and you've got the king, Jeff Siegel, telling you from years past and months past, but just keep in mind that the 5 furlong turf sprint and down the hill, much different ball game. You might even argue that a 1 mile 2-turn race is a closer deal, and the fitness of those races is probably more beneficial. And that's why Reef Runner's a little tough to trust. We just don't know if he's going to take to the hill. He's very good in these 5 furlong races, but inside draw, new configuration, I'm going to let him beat me. First Piece, on the other hand, we know likes this course. We know he likes this race, if you will. He won it last year, and now he moves to the more favorable outside post. So I give a look to Sereno Sky. I'm going to play an 8-4 exacta, but I like 8 First Piece.
You mentioned the outside post. On the downhill turf sprint, there's kind of a dog leg, and then they come around over the dirt. And the outside posts are advantageous. It's kind of a rare thing to say in a turf sprint. But the way the track lays out and coming down the hill and the way they dog leg, it is better to be on the outside. Plus, if you got a horse who can rally, you stay out of all the trouble. When they come over the dirt, some horses handle and some don't when they cross over. And being on the outside and being able to finish in the clear is what you like to see. First Piece was a winner of this race last year in the Eddie D, and was able to come up the inside. Might get a cleaner trip this time around.
Of a mile to go as Boss Sully is up on even terms with Fastbuck. Fastbuck trying to cling to the lead. Boss Sully, First Piece, is coming through smartly along the inside, has the narrowest of openings to get through, and here he comes. First Piece takes off inside the furlong pole and opens up a 3-length lead on Air Force Red. First Piece and Mike Smith, stellar in the California Crown Eddie D, presented by FanDuel.
And you get a chance to see this horse again down the hill. 6 trips down the hill for First Piece, 3 wins, 3 seconds. So definitely a course specialist. I'm on board with you as well. I've got the 8 over the 165 in there if you're looking for some exotics. Let's go to the 9th race. It's the Express Bet race of the week, the Goodwood Stakes, Grade 1. If you remember the Goodwood Stakes, you're going back a ways because this race was then renamed the Awesome Again, ran as that several years. Then the Awesome Again was run last year as the California Crown. Now back to the original name. So something old, something new. We talked about that at the beginning of the podcast. The Goodwood Stakes, named for an exchange program that the old Oak Tree Association had with Goodwood Racecourse in England. We don't have an Oak Tree Association running meets at Santa Anita anymore, but we have a Goodwood. So we go back in time, if you will, here for this 1 1/8 prep towards the Breeders' Cup Classic and Common Sense, with it being on the West Coast, but also the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. You can see horses cutting back and trip out of this one. Scott, not the strongest field we've seen in this race. It's had some major classic horses over the years, but from a Dirt Mile standpoint, Full Serrano and First Mission both look like horses who are potential Dirt Mile kind of players, and we know what Full Serrano can do. We saw it on display last year at Del Mar.
So Tio Saint-Denis at a brisk pace with 3 furlongs to go, trying to hold on to this lead from Full Serrano. Muth is on the far outside. Tumbarumba sent along. Full Serrano has taken the lead. Post Time is splitting horses late. Domestic Product on the outside. It is going to be Full Serrano and Post Time. Full Serrano in the Dirt Mile.
Full Serrano with that ISO look, courtesy of Del Mar last year. He could be in isolation in this race too, Scott. He looks to be a standout to me on paper. Maybe take some shots with some other runners in here at some prices around. But Full Serrano, for sure, the horse to beat, I think, on the win end.
Yeah, I would agree. That was a very big effort off the long layoff last time. He hadn't been seen since the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Had a long layoff, even in terms of training in the mornings, as it appears. But he really, put forth a number of good works to set him up for that. Good enough works to set him up for that race. And then now he's set up to, in a very good spot here. Probably, like you said, to set him up for another run at the Dirt Mile, which we just watched him win last out. First Mission's listed as the morning line favorite. We'll see if that's not swapped. I know it was close, 8-5, 2-1. I think First Mission has seen his best days. I've been disappointed in this horse a number of times. So I agree with you. From an exactathon perspective, I like playing Full Serrano over a couple of the non-First Missions in this race. Maybe Privman, maybe Nevada Beach.
I give Express Train a good look in here. I know he's 8 years old and he has not won a race since 2022. I don't even know what I was doing in 2022, but he gets a good setup in here. Almost all the horses in this race want to be up cooking on the front. Full Serrano is probably going to gut the other speed in here because I think he can run on when the others at 1 1/8 maybe can't. There's some horses that are questionable at the 9 furlongs. Express Train loves it here at Santa Anita. He's run well over the years. He rarely misfires, and I thought his last race in the Pat O'Brien was a really good sharpener. He got beat a length by Dr. Venkman, Stronghold, really good milers in there going 7/8. And then now he stretches back out. I think it's kind of a good sprint the route form cycle for him here. And I think Express Train is going to run a really good race. He does have that tendency, maybe in some of these bigger spots in recent years, to run second, third, fourth. But if you're looking at exactathon, I think he's a shot in here. And I think he's got a chance. If Full Serrano doesn't stretch out to the 1 1/8, second off the layoff, his form in South America and his race in the Pacific Classic last year indicate that he should get the 1 1/8. But if the pace cooks too much, it feels like Express Train could have one fall in his lap here, and he needs something to fall in his lap after not winning since 2022. But again, he hasn't had that many races since then, so the losing streak doesn't sound quite as bad as the number of years between victories.
I think I picked this horse. Is it possible I picked this horse in the 2020 Kentucky Derby?
You may have him going back.
But anyway, he's been around for a while to the point.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the more unique experiences I've ever had, being at Churchill Downs with nobody there for the Derby. But Express Train has always been a good finisher. I mean, I obviously going to question his will to win. But one thing is, you're exactathon, you're playing against other people to an extent. Keying Express Train even underneath and not needing one of the favorites to run with them, having other options, that could be a separated race for you in a contest like that.
All right, that's the Goodwood Stakes, Grade 1, race number 9 at Santa Anita. If you like Full Serrano, you don't like the intra-race exotics, then maybe you look at a daily double because we've got a full field going in race 10. So from race 9 to race number 10, the John C. Harris Stakes, Grade 3, down the hill, turf sprint. This one for the fillies and mares, the sister race, if you will, to the Eddie D. John C. Harris, the breeder of the owner of Harris Farm, passed away in July. This race was renamed for him. It was the former Unzip Me Stakes, if you're used to seeing that. Of course, Harris Farm stood C's Tizzy, the sire of Tisnow, most famously. So the first edition of the John C. Harris, the former Unzip Me Stakes, has a big field of 13 in here, Scott. And you and I are kind of on the same boat. I know who you like in here. I know who I like in here. And it all goes back to the same race when they ran against each other 2 starts back for Eiffel and last time out for Innovative. We're going to take a look at that allowance race. I think we can make a decent case for both of those horses stepping up into the stakes ranks because I think they're horses that could run really well back over this course again. Let's go back to that allowance race and then we'll talk more about it.
Innovative is just in behind them, saving ground, while Eiffel swings up 4 wide for the stretch drive. They turn for home. Ribbons off the turn in front. Sea Runner to the outside. Eiffel trying to get them. Innovative's in it too. These 4 coming down to the final 16th. It is Ribbons, Innovative, and Eiffel. These 3 across the track. Hey, Jesse, next on the outside. They're coming down to the finish, and it's going to be Innovative to win. Then Eiffel, Ribbons, and Hey, Jesse.
You've got Phil D'Amato's charging their innovative back. I've got Eiffel, the runner-up, who the race after that, and the reason I like this horse is he was completely just ranked for Antonio Fresu when they tried to go long last time out at a mile and a 16th. They cut back and go down the hill, which means you just give the horse their head and go this time. You don't have to try to rate him and hold him. Fresu was leading rider at the Hollywood meet here at Santa Anita, got his first Southern California title back in the summer. So I give Eiffel a shot in here. First time down the hill, like you talked about earlier, you like those routers cutting back in these 6.5 downhill turf sprints. And I like ones who are ranked because in the route races, because they're just going to let them pop here and run down the hill as long as they can, as fast as they can. So I'm giving Eiffel a shot. Tell us why you're on innovative.
Well, I mean, the Little Red Feather Racing will have ransacked the winner's circle in the finale if they run 1-2 at this race. They're partners in both horses, I think, right? But I like innovative on the turn back here. Now, you make good points with Eiffel, and if you get more of a price significantly, I totally get it. Does have the turf sprint experience. Not no one in this race really has a ton of that experience we talked about for this first piece. Obviously, they're 3-year-olds. You know, Casalu's ran a good race over this. But then to me, when I don't see that, I look to horses that are going to settle and finish maybe coming out of races that we talked about. And I think Innovative showed me a new dimension last time in the start before being able to settle, especially last time, settling off an honest pace and finishing. I think that bodes well for his chances. But the more I look at it, it's very hard to separate the two. And I think Eiffel, if she's going to be a bigger price, makes just as much sense.
Casalu, 14-1 when backing up in the Del Mar Oaks. She was 15-1 when she got second in the San Clemente. But she was well bet when she turf sprinted at Santa Anita, so she could get back on the beam in here. But I think she'll be an underlay price for the relative chances. She hasn't done anything to me spectacularly to take a shorter price this time. So I'll try to beat Casalu in there. But this is a race I think that is pretty interesting from a gambling standpoint. And when you're looking at that late day, final 3 races on the card, if you're looking to play the new new wager out there, the Sunset Six, this is part of that Sunset 6. This is a race where you might want to get a little bit of coverage in here, but I think Eiffel and Innovative are 2 pretty interesting horses that if one runs, both could run in here. And I might even just look at 2 deep potentially in that Sunset 6.
Yeah, those are the 2. Actually, I like Tight Squeeze as the other one. I don't know who will be aboard this one. Probably not Paco Lopez, although I haven't heard the official news. This one has that outside draw, has to prove herself still down the hill. The one race that she ran down the hill was, her slowest race, but it was the second race in her career taking on winners for the first time. So, and she was on the inside. I think Tight Squeeze is the other one I would use if I'm looking to get a little more coverage.
Let's shift gears now from Santa Anita to a couple races around the country and remind you at Santa Anita on Saturdays, the $4,000 Santa Anita opening weekend challenge, high roller, big bankroll handicapping tournament on Saturday. If $4,000 out of your league, you can qualify for that tournament in a $400 feeder on today's Friday card on opening day at Santa Anita. So $400 feeder today, $4,000 Santa Anita opening weekend challenge coming up on Saturday for tournament players only at expressbet.com. So check that out. To Churchill we go for the Lucas Classic, one of 2 stakes races. It also includes the ACAC on the card Saturday under the Twin Spires. Lucas Classic, of course, named for the Hall of Fame trainer D. Wayne Lucas, passed away earlier this year at the age of 89, just shy of his 90th birthday when he passed away in late June. 5-time winner of the Kentucky Oaks, 4-time winner of the Kentucky Derby. The Lucas Classic has been in his name for the last several years. He was presenting the trophy for the race up until his passing. Lucas, one of the all-time greats in the game with 15 Triple Crown race winners. If he's going to have a horse come out of his namesake race, he could move towards the Breeders' Cup Classic, could move towards the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. More likely the Dirt Mile for many in this group. Mystic Dan, one of those that trainer Kenny McPeak has already said will head to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile after this race. That's the plan for Mystic Dan. He was to be ridden by Brian Hernandez Jr., Brian was injured last Sunday in a spill at Churchill Downs, had 7 broken ribs, a lacerated liver, punctured lung, a lot of tough injuries for a tough guy in Brian Hernandez Jr. He's hoping to get back for the Breeders' Cup. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but of course he's got the mount on Torpedo Anna, and if there's Any kind of good medicine, Scott, it would be, to have Torpedo Ann as a potential horse to come back to ride.
Yeah, Brian Hernandez is by far the rider I know most. Got to know him pretty well in Kentucky. Very sharp. He's very analytical. He knows races like we do. Not to say other guys don't do the work, but Brian always a one step ahead mentally. And I just wish him well. It sounds like his recovery is going as good as possible. But I wish him well, and I won't be rooting his horse in this race. I'm sure he'll be rooting for his Derby winner, Mystic Dan, from wherever he is, lying down or sitting up, hopefully, and chilling. But this is a competitive race, and I think, like you said, could have dirt mile implications more than the Classic.
Hit showing here, Dubai World Cup winner from earlier this year. He got back on the beam last out and winning the West Virginia Governor's Stakes. Wasn't dominant in doing so on the West Virginia Derby Day card at Mountaineer. We'll see. Is Hit Show kind of a one-hit wonder for that big Dubai World Cup win? He's had some good wins, and he's run well here at Churchill over the years. He won this race, the Lucas Classic, last year, so he obviously fits in a race like this. Florent Giroux rides. Banishing gets Tyler Gaffleone, who's had a good week. I think Tyler won on Wednesday at Churchill, won 4-5, had a really big day there. David Jacobson trains Banishing, and I know that's where you're leaning, Scott.
It is, and I want to give a shout-out to Willie Dees, who I think has a price in here for a former Lucas assistant in Mike Maker, who's really learned to operate his business much like the coach did. I think this horse has a shot from the inside. He's cross-entered in the Woodward, but he is going to run in here, is what we hear. But Banishing is such a warrior. I mean, this horse, he's had time off now in his recent starts, and he keeps rewarding trainer David Jacobson. It's a horse that, didn't live up to expectations as a young 3-year-old at a dominant debut, and they thought he was a Derby-type horse. Well, David Jacobson has reinvented him, buying him for $80,000, I believe, at the Horses of All Racing sale. This horse can run 6.5 furlongs. He can go a mile and an eighth, and he's had the best pilot in Kentucky, or one of them, in Tyler Gaffleone aboard since coming back in his last 2 starts, and he'll have him aboard again here. I think Banishing is just a super cool horse, so I'm going to ride him.
He races so hard, so often that you said he's had time off since his last race. It's been a whole 5 weeks, which is kind of normal for everybody else. But for him, it was like going to the Shangri-La or something, Banishing, last out winning at Charlestown. Let's take a look at it.
And here comes Banishing with a backstretch blitz, and he's up to challenge Komorabino Amoide. Banishing takes the lead. Komorabino Amoide, and then Awesome Aaron. Willie D sent along from 4th. Skippy Longstocking does not have it tonight. He's been passed by Gould's Gold as Banishing takes charge, coming to the top of the stretch. In behind him, Komorabino Amoide shifts outside, and then Awesome Aaron with Willie D's. It's Banishing in front. Komorabino Amoide trying hard. Willie D's is rolling, but he's running out of time. Banishing's in front from Willie D's, and it will be Banishing in the Charlestown Classic by 2. Willie D's second, then Gould's Gold and Awesome Aaron.
Underrated caller there, Paul Espinosa.
Yeah, Paul Espinosa does a really nice job at Charlestown. Funny, I remember back, we used to do live chats many lives ago, it seems like, on the internet. And one of our earliest chatters in the Express Bet chats that we used to have back in the day was a kid named Paul W.V. He was a student at West Virginia University. Paul Espinosa, who's now the race caller there at Charlestown. So, look, in this race, the Lucas Classic, I kind of went on the stupid pill. I'm taking a shot one more time with Disarm. He just completely underachieves all the time. The thought process here is he's going to be a big price, and Irad Ortiz gets on board for the first time, and maybe, just maybe, he can shake this horse up and finally get some of that ability out of him that he just fails to show too many times, more often than not. So I'm taking a shot with Disarm in this race, but Banishing, obviously, the horse in the best form in here, your top pick in the Lucas Classic. Let's go to Belmont next. Belmont. Let's go to Belmont in a year and a half. Let's go to Aqueduct next, which they call Belmont at the Big A. And the reason they call it Belmont at the Big A is because people screw up and think it's Belmont, like I just did. So marketing works is the moral to that story. It's the Joe Hurst Turf Classic coming up here. The Joe Hurst Turf Classic, 1.5 miles on the grass. We've got the 2-time winner of the Breeders' Cup Turf back in the U.S., and Rebels Romance certainly will take a lot of attention. Joe Hurst Turf Classic, named for the former Daily Racing Form columnist, 1954 to 2003, almost a 50-year run at DRF for Joe Hirsch. Had the pleasure of meeting him. Funny story about Joe Hirsch is he was friends with Weeb Eubank, the old owner of the manager or coach manager of the New York Jets. And when a young quarterback from Alabama was drafted and came to the New York Jets, Weeb Eubank asked his friend Joe Hirsch, "Can you take care of this kid for me? He needs a roommate." He was roommates with the one and only Joe Namath. There were some great stories that he would tell about Joe Namath. I had the pleasure of having dinner with Joe Hirsch one year at the Bristol restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky, and he told Joe Namath stories, and just one of the most fun experiences ever talking with the turf writer was getting to spend time with Joe Hirsch before he retired. Joe Hirsch Turf Classic coming up on Saturday, Scott. This one certainly will have Breeders' Cup turf implications.
Well, I know your grade 1 namesake will be coming soon, but well, not soon. I don't mean it like that, but you'll be getting yours in line. But yeah, an all-timer is one. Joe Hirsch didn't get to meet him, unfortunately. You know, I wanted to get creative in here. It's a good grade 1 in terms of quality. You mentioned you got the favorite in Rebels Romance. You got Far Bridge, who's going to be one of the bigger prices on the board after being a huge favorite in a couple big races at Saratoga. But Rebels Romance, you know, I've talked about trying to beat Appleby horses and been successful in some cases and unsuccessful in others. A lot of times they're overbet or they're short prices. Mm-hmm. This horse is here for a reason. It's a grade 1. It's a big spot, and it's going to set him up hopefully for another run in the Breeders' Cup turf. So there's really not a lot of knock for this horse, who's still in good form this year. I think it's decent form when you've earned almost $2.4 million in 6 starts. So Rebels Romance looks like pretty tough to beat against the Americans.
This will be his second start at Aqueduct. Let's go back to his win in the Breeders' Cup to give you a little highlight of Rebel Romance on his biggest day.
Rebels Romance takes the lead from Cabo Spirit as they make their way to the top of the stretch. There goes Harvard is next. Farbridge trapped in behind horses, no place to go. Then Gold Phoenix and Wingspan, and on the far outside, Rousham Park from behind, but Rebels Romance has built a big lead here. Rousham Park is cutting into it. Rebels Romance by 2. Rousham Park coming. Rebels Romance, Rousham Park. Rebels Romance, a Breeders' Cup winner again. Rousham Park was second. Shariar was third. Then a...
Is that horse running, Rousham Park, still?
I don't know. I don't know if he's still going, if we've got him back for Breeders' Cup this year. We'll keep an eye on the internationals. You know, with the international scene for me, and, you know, people like, you can't follow everything, right? And for me, it's like when Breeders' Cup implications or Breeders' Cup intentions are named, then I start the mass research on all the European horses. For me, I can't keep up with the international scene as well as others do. So for me, it's a study, a cram session, if you will, when we get to the internationals. I gave Farbridge a little chance to bounce back in this race. Sore Dancer last time. He was kind of wide in that 3-turn race early for no reason. And I think Farbridge is a horse who might have a chance in here to, you know, bounce back at a little bit better price than what we saw last time at 6-5. Let's switch gears here from the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic and go to the Woodward Stakes, race number 6 on the card. The Woodward Stakes, $300,000. How the mighty have fallen. This is a race that once had Rachel Alexander in 2009 shaking the rafters at Saratoga. Not that kind of race this year. We've got what looks to be maybe, Scott, just a field of 3 after scratches, because a lot of horses are cross-centered on their places. David Lee Racing Forum's David Grenning reporting as many as 4 of these 7 could be scratching out of this particular spot and leaving us with a field of 3. Let's go back and take a look at a horse in this race that you like in here. This is Phileas Fogg, last time out in action, and then we'll get your reasons why you're taking Phileas Fogg to take on 2 others.
You can. Antiquarian is suddenly 4 lengths back in second, and Locked is down at the rail. Mid-stretch, Phileas Fogg in complete control. Antiquarian 4 lengths back. Then it's Locked and Ben Duke. They're coming to the 16th pole, and Phileas Fogg still full of run. And Phileas Fogg by 2. Antiquarian trying so hard, and it's going to get close. Phileas Fogg, Antiquarian, here's the line. Phileas Fogg held on by the narrowest of margins. Antiquarian.
Phileas Fogg, he's dangerous on the front in a short field of 3. Speed's usually pretty good. Scott, post time, one of the others in here, we know he'll drop out the back. The other to factor in, of course, is Locke, the horse who won the Santa Anita handicap earlier this year. Phileas Fogg on the front end, you say?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still recovering from that loss in the Suburban with Antiquarian. But I'm hoping my boy Phileas Fogg Saturday will be my boy. Look, this is likely a 3-horse race, like you said, for scratches. It's likely to be post time, locked, and Phileas Fogg. In a race like that, not only is Kendrick Carmouche riding great because these can be riders' races, but this horse not only has a pace advantage against these 2 horses, but I think he has a form advantage. I think he's just in better form. Locked is a big question. He ran that monster race at the Big Cat, but has underwhelmed since. I know he got a decent number last out, but he was underwhelming, as you saw, toiling in third at 4 to 5. And then you look at post time. I still think he's better at 1 turn probably. And I mean, they know their horse better than me, but it's going to be tough for him without a lot of pacing here in a 3-horse race to get that set up, or at least to come with a strong enough acceleration at 9 furlongs. So I just think from a race shape perspective, this is Phileas Fogg's race to lose.
Lock, trained by Tom Pletcher, 5-time winner of this race, the Woodward Stakes, named for Bel Air Studs owner William Woodward. Triple Crown winners back in the early days. Gallant Fox and Omaha, the Triple Crown winners for Bel Air Stud and William Woodward. Woodward Stakes, race number 6, unfortunately, probably down to a field of 3. That's going to wrap up our handicapping for the weekend. We've got 8 stakes for you coming up on Saturday that we've handicapped. Also, we're going to talk about some Sunday races in just a moment, but I want to give Scott the final word on Saturday's action.
Yeah, it's a big day of racing, not quite the sovereignties of the world and the fiercenesses, but just about everybody else. Preps, spots on the line in the Breeders' Cup. We're starting to think about the World Championships, and there's plenty of good wagers and promotions at First Bet and Express Bet to take advantage. So I'm looking forward to it and hope you have a good weekend, JP.
Opening day at Santa Anita today, the big day Saturday we previewed, and on Sunday, Del Cap Day at Delaware Park. A couple big stakes races at Santa Anita as well, including the Santa Anita Sprint Championship with last year's Breeders' Cup winner Straight No Chaser going on Sunday in that one. And also on Sunday at Remington Park, my old stomping grounds, it's Oklahoma Derby Day. I've got a handicapping video I put together, so if you'd like a little extra on the Sunday stakes races at Remington Park, I'm going to let that roll for us as we roll out on this week's podcast. We'll be back next weekend to wrap up all this action and get cranked up towards the Breeders' Cup. Here's some Remington action. Have a great weekend, everybody. Hi again, everybody. Jeremy Plonk with Horse Player Now with this week's Handicappers edition of the Reasons to Remington. Oklahoma Derby Day is Sunday. 10 race card gets underway at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, the only Sunday card of the season in OKC. If you're not used to betting Remington Park, main track plays pretty fair, light favoritism to speed, of course, as is the case with most North American dirt tracks. On the turf course, you can close up the rail on the grass there, but it is a short crop turf course, very similar to what you see at Lone Star, Ellis Park, Louisiana Downs. Turf courses like that play very similar to what we see at Remington. You do see horses close up the rail because they have an infield chute for an elbow start, and horses can dive to the inside and rally up the rail on the turf course. A good rail rider on the turf can be successful at Remington Park. As for the local trainers and jocks to keep an eye on, Steve Asmussen, Robertina Diodoro dominating in the standings, and of course on the jockey side, longtime leading rider here, Stuart Elliott, and the former leading rider who's back this year and topping the standings right now, the red hot Ramon Vasquez. Those are the 4 guys to watch, obviously, among the locals. Let's get handicapping. Go right to race number 3, and we start things off in Stakes Company with the Remington Green. Race they've been running there since the opening of the track back in the late 1980s. Remington Green on the turf. Number 1, Segoy, the one you want to watch and hear. Trainer Mike Makers brought 19 horses to Remington Park since 2014. 10 of them have won. 5 have run second, all in Stakes Company. Segoy gets local leading jockey Stuart Elliott. We talk about a good run up the rail on the turf course. Be on the lookout. Segoy, my top choice in race number 3. To the 4th race we go on the program. It's the E.L. Gaylord Memorial Stakes, 6.5 furlongs. These are the 2-year-old fillies here into the outside. Number 9, Woodstock. Could make it 2 for 2 for Mike Maker on the program. I think this one is a horse you definitely got to keep an eye on. This is a now horse, bought for $100,000 in the Ocala March sale. Expected to win early as a 2-year-old, and this is a horse who ran first in the career debut at Horseshoe Indianapolis. Comes off the turf last time in a decent effort at Kentucky Downs. Back to the main track, outside post advantageous here with a little bit longer run to the turn at 6.5 furlongs. Give me the 9 Woodstock over the 2 Hot Crazy Matrix and the 7 Looking Mighty Fine. Race 5 is the Rand Ricks Memorial, 75,000 on the turf. Number 3, Sabalenka in from Kentucky for Joe Sharp. Could get that inside rail rally on the turf that we talk about. Luis Saez gets the mount. He's won 2 of 6 local mounts here, shipping in twice in past years on Springboard Mile Day at Remington Park. He'll ride his first Oklahoma Derby later in the card. Luis Saez, Sabalenka, top choice for me in this race that has a lot of pace. Neon Beach will be one of the favorites in here, rallying from off the pace. This horse liked the turf at Lone Star, should like it at Remington. For Steve and Eric Asmussen. 6th race, the David M. Vance, named for the original general manager of Remington Park. 6 furlong sprint, good one in here. I'm going with number 5 to get the prize, Surveillance. This is an 8-year-old. This horse is claimed for $75,000 last time out by you-know-who, Mike Maker. I think he's sitting on another big day at Remington Park. He gets Jose Ortiz to ride. When you claim an 8-year-old for $75,000 in Saratoga, you have immediate plans for them often. I would expect Surveillance to be on his toes, ready to go. His past running lines include horses like Bookham Dano and Crazy Mason. A class drop for Surveillance. He'll be the horse to beat. I'll use him in some exactas with the 1, 3, and 6 underneath, but it's all about Surveillance in race number 6. Race number 7 is the Clever Trevor Stakes, named for the first Oklahoma Derby winner. Of course, in 1989, he went on to run second in the Travers behind the great Easy Goer. Clever Trevor Stakes here. I've got number 7, Express Kid on top. This is a horse in from Prairie Meadows, and if you look at that Prairie Meadows freshman stakes, he ran second in there. Bookended around 2 horses where the first and third place finishers are both already multiple stakes winners. That was a much better addition to the Prairie freshman than you might expect. I think Express Kid with red hot riding Ramon Vasquez, the horse to beat in the Clever Trevor Stakes. Give me the 7 over the 3-9 in race number 7. The inaugural $250,000 Great West Turf Sprint next up in race number 8. I give a long look in here to number 2, Mustache. This is a horse who does not like the course at Kentucky Downs. Draw a line through those races. The Ellis Park races are what you want to check out with this Vicky Oliver trainee. Ellis Turf plays very similar to Remington's Turf, and Mustache runs great on the Ellis Park Turf course. I think going to relish it here under Jose Ortiz. Local Turf Sprint ace. Dark Afternoon breaks right next door. This is a highly competitive field in here. Number 8, Usually Wrong for trainer Robertino Diodoro, is one who's run well at Lone Star. Again, another turf course that plays very similar to this. And you're looking at a horse who's red hot, 6 for 7 lifetime. Usually Wrong and Diodoro, who just last week lit it up at Remington, winning with 8 of his 10 starters. 2-8 to me are the top players here in the Great West Turf Sprint. Distance could be the key in the Remington Park Oaks at 1 mile and a 16th. A couple of the favorites in here, Lemon Zest for Brad Cox. So there she was for Doug O'Neill. Big name Barnes bringing in horses who have not gone this far yet in their career. Neither has been beyond 1 mile. I think there's a chance that number 3, Running and Gunning from off the pace, Jose Ortiz riding for Steve Asmussen, could get back on the beam. It's been a long layoff since the Black Eyed Susan back in May, but this filly was 3rd in the fantasy, won the Sunland Park Oaks, and she gets pace to run into where distance is a big question for some of the others. Running and Gunning is going to be my key in here. Maybe more likely to run second from well off the pace. 4-5 over the 3, and then 3 over the 4-5. Probably a stronger combination with the 3 running second, the way to go here in the exacta. But number 3, Running and Gunning from off the pace, is going to be one that's going to be my key in the Remington Park Oaks. And now the big one, the Oklahoma Derby for the 37th time. Favorites 12 for 36 in the Oklahoma Derby overall. We lose the favorite Cole Battle due to a scratch in here. Trainer Lonnie Briley said he just wasn't up to himself. He's taking him out of the field. So 7 entered at the time of our recording of this podcast. And for me, it's about Iron Dome the 2 and Bracket Buster the 4. I think these are the 2 clear-cut players in this year's Oklahoma Derby. I'm leaning towards Bracket Buster in here for trainer Vicky Oliver, coming off a second in the Travers Stakes. I know he got beat the length of the stretch by Sovereignty in that race. A lot of horses do. But when you look at the rest of the field, he was more than 10 lengths ahead of Magnitude in there and in the Travers Stakes. And when Magnitude came back last week in the Pennsylvania Derby, he ran a good second to Baeza in that, underscoring his quality. So beating Magnitude by 10-plus lengths, I think, says a lot. As for Iron Dome, he has just been a world beater against the New York breds for trainer Steve Asmussen. His last 3 wins at Saratoga by about almost 30 lengths combined. He hasn't been challenged in those. He's really found his groove. He'll be a tough out here under Jose Ortiz. Saez on Bracket Buster, Ortiz on Iron Dome. I think the 2 big name riders coming into this race control the Oklahoma Derby. I'll give the edge to Bracket Buster, my top choice in this year's 37th edition of the Oklahoma Derby. Good luck to everybody playing Remington Park on Sunday. Again, a reminder, first post will be 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 10 race program in Oklahoma City. Good luck.